Mike, Kim, let me start with you. Last time you were here, you had a message. We replayed it. I mean, just about fighting, about your message really pleading with Democrats to fight. The ticket has changed. It's undergone a transformation. But Kamala Harris seems very ready for the fight. I wonder how you think the first couple days have gone and how you're feeling about everything that's transpired since we last talked.
Yeah, what has transpired in the last 48 hours is that not only has Kamala Harris demonstrated her ability and willingness and readiness to fight, but so have Democrats. I've been speaking with Democrats for the last 48 hours, too. And those who had been working long and hard on behalf of President Biden, those who had, some of them were disillusioned, and others, all of them today are excited. They are hopeful, and they are ready to take the case against Donald Trump. I admit, I am surprised even at the swiftness with which Democrats, within the campaign and activists and groups and others have unified, and they're ready because they know that there is hard work ahead. There are still a lot of voters who still want to know more about her, still want to see a process play out on the way to the convention. And so she has a lot of ground to make up with good old shoe leather. I don't want to imply that this is locked up and this is done or this will be easy, but the amount of energy that is represented in that fundraising, that is represented in all these Zoom calls that have been going on, that has been represented in just the early snap polling, is exactly what Democrats needed going into the convention. They could not let all of the momentum be taken up by the Republicans who could sort of glide while the Democrats were fighting. And so this is the fight that they need. If they can keep it up, Kamala Harris certainly can be a winning candidate.
Mike Murphy, the laws of campaigns where a single debate or a single interview could shift the momentum have changed. It takes something seismic, but this is something seismic, and it feels like that momentum shift has gone in the other direction. There's some great reporting from our friend Tim Alberta about the political hangover they're experiencing post-J.D. Vance, post-Milwaukee. Let me share that with you. Republicans I spoke with today, Tim Alberta reports, some of them still hung over from celebrating what felt to many like a victory night celebration in Milwaukee, registered shock at the news of Biden's departure. Party officials had left town believing the race was all but over. Now, they were confronting the reality of reimagining a campaign, one that had been optimized in every way to defeat Biden against a new and unknown challenger. They know that from the moment they partnered with Trump, everything they intended for this campaign, the messaging, the advertising, the micro-targeting, the ground game, the mail pieces, the digital engagement, the social media maneuvers, was designed to defeat Joe Biden. Even the selection of Ohio's Senator J.D. Vance as Trump's running mate, campaign officials acknowledged was something of a luxury, meant to run up margins with the base in a blowout, rather than persuade swing voters in a nail-biter. You can't, I mean, I guess we should never say never with Donald Trump. You can't unselect a VP, but certainly someone like Nikki Haley, who was still polling 20 to 30% of Republican primary voters from Donald Trump weeks after she abandoned her candidacy, might have made a little more sense in hindsight.
Yeah, I don't know if he ever would have gone there. He wanted to pick a younger version of himself. I mean, what I think is happening, and I don't think the Trump people were dumb enough not to think that Joe Biden might give up the ticket. Remember, Biden was losing the campaign before that big debate. That was the seminal event. And then the pressure was building. I wrote an op-ed in the New York Times about it. There are a lot of us in the never Trump world who respect Joe Biden a lot, but knew Donald Trump would beat him. So if the Trump campaign had decided that life is kind and you get to win for free, yeah, they're incredibly disappointed. But the phenomenon in the Democratic Party is fascinating. They've gone from a sense of total despair to this neck-snapping enthusiasm now. I mean, that is a massive amount of money that came flowing in, and volunteers and everything you talked about. And that energy is a very good thing. It's also flipped the campaign a bit because now Donald Trump is the old guy. So Kamala Harris, and I thought her speech yesterday was very strong, framed it right, which is now it's future versus past. And that is a very good debate for her. Now, this prosecutor stuff is great for the Democratic troops to show she's a fighter, but she's taking a risk with it because her record as a DA in San Francisco and later California AG, it can be attacked from the right and the left. I would be careful about betting all my campaign chips on that. The winner for her is future, past, Dobbs decision, those sorts of things. And what we're seeing now, and hopefully from her point of view, she can sustain it, is a much better performance as a candidate than when she ran for president herself in a campaign that was kind of a gold standard for disasters. So, you know, she's in an interesting position now to completely reset the race. Trump's having a nervous breakdown. He doesn't know how to handle her. Forget his managers. You know, when Trump hits the rocks, he doesn't listen to anybody except his own instincts, which with her might be very, very bad. So this is a whole new race than where we were 24 hours ago. I would still say Trump is the narrow front runner, but she has a hell of a shot, and now she's going to be the money candidate. She's going to be able to compete. And if she can keep it on future past, not make it about race, Obama was very smart about that, not necessarily make it a backwards referendum on her work as DA in a progressive city, but do middle-class economics, future past, and Dobbs' decision with the right VP pick. This is going to be one hell of a race now. It's a whole new world from the convention for the Republicans.
Kim, I want to show you what Senator Schumer and Leader Jeffries had to say today.
When I spoke with her Sunday, she said she wanted the opportunity to win the nomination on her own and to do so from the grassroots up, not top down. We deeply respected that, Hakeem and I did. She said she would work to earn the support of our party, and boy, has she done so.
President Joe Biden has made the selfless decision to pass the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris, who is ready, willing, and able to lead us into the future. Kamala Harris and her candidacy has excited and energized the House Democratic Caucus, the Democratic Party, and the nation. Vice President Harris has earned the nomination from the grassroots up and not the top down.
Kim, you referenced being surprised at the unity around her. I felt like it was pent up. You know, the desire to be united, I don't think was ever lacking with President Joe Biden because the agenda is so popular. He's so beloved. But it's sort of the next level beyond unity. It's this sort of workhorse, not show horse mentality, which I think when you take some of the real political dynamics into play that Mike is talking about, seems to be the vice president seems to speak from a place where she has really taken in the landscape of the general election. She understands what her message is. She understands message discipline, and she's an extraordinary candidate on the trail. Just take me inside sort of the confidence game, how confident you're feeling about the sustainability of this level of both performance and unity.
Yeah, I mean, let me be clear. I was not saying for one moment that I did not think that Kamala Harris would be a fantastic presidential candidate in this moment. I was uncertain about the Democratic, particularly those who were calling for Biden's ouster, ability to steer the ship in a way that would bring everyone on board after all that disruption we've seen in the past. That hasn't always happened, but it certainly has happened in part because of the kind of candidate Kamala Harris is. Look, she has experience in winning on local, statewide, and national tickets. She is somebody who has won elections, including the election to beat Donald Trump. She is good on the campaign trail. I went back and looked at her debate with Mike Pence, and she was excellent at that. She actually has a record. She was one of the people in charge. She really led in the White House after the Dobbs decision, the plan of action to protect reproductive rights. She was for gay marriage while people, including Barack Obama, were still talking civil unions. I mean, she has the resume, she has the chops. She's a very good candidate here, and I'm glad that that enthusiasm has rallied behind her, because it's coming from different places. It's coming from folks who have always been fans of hers. It's coming from folks who trust Joe Biden and know that she has been his partner in this administration. It's coming from folks who voted for Joe Biden in 2020 but was hoping for some other, that he was transitional, as he said, and was hoping for someone with more energy to come in, and now that they've got it. Now they've got that. So that's what they have. A couple of things I just want to say to Mike's point. I do think the future versus the past. I mean, Donald Trump's own slogan is still make America great again. And we know that means send America back to the 1950s or before. And this is a clear way to distinguish from that. But I think both on her being a prosecutor, I think that that's excellent, because you have a lot of Democrats right now who are frustrated that the actual prosecutions of Donald Trump have been attacked, stymied, and thwarted, and one tossed out entirely because they wanted to see some accountability. And Joe Biden was unable to do that, in a sense, because he wanted to keep distance between himself and the Justice Department in an understandable way. Kamala Harris is a prosecutor from long before she's been in the White House, and she is able to do exactly what she is doing in saying, I know crooks, frauds, and cheats like Donald Trump. I've dealt with them, and I can deal with them there. I think that's an excellent line. And in terms of making it about race, the Republicans have already made it about race. They have called her a DEI hire. They have a former Trump official called her colored. Republicans are making this about race, and I think Democrats have to have a clear message to blunt that. They can't ignore that at all. That they do that to their peril.